in the picture that you can see here, assume that the vertical line is the quantity that I have in stock, and the horizontal is time. And in the warehouse, at the start of the day, physically I have a quantity of 100 in stock. Yeah, I have no sales orders, no incoming, no outgoing, just pure 100 in stock at the start of today. Yeah. Then my first sales order comes in. So I'm going to draw now a graph um, showing a negative sign because the sales order takes stock. So let me just draw this here. Kind of represents a negative. Yep. And say, for example, that the sales order is a quantity of 60. Yeah. And the priority on the sales order, which is how important the sales order is, let's say is 4. Okay, that's fine. So what we're saying is that the quantity of 60 here has been allocated from the 100. So the 100 has been allocated to 60, giving an ATP quantity a balance of 40, because 60 minus 100 is 40. Then we have another sales order that has come in. So another sales order has come in here at this time, and this time the quantity is for 40. Now this makes the ATP quantity is actually 100 minus 60 from the previous sales order minus 40 will give the balance of ATP quantity of 0. And the priority of this sales order is 2. Yeah, so basically this 40 has been allocated from that 100. I now have an ATP quantity of 0. I have no more stock I can allocate to any other sales order. While physically I have 100, ATP quantity is 0. Both of the stock has been allocated. Then after that, let's say maybe an hour later, I get another sales order for this in the same day. Now for a quantity, so I get a sales order here and for a quantity of 60. But now that the ATP quantity is 0, the system will say, you have no stock at this time, or no ATP stock. I'll look at the recommended lead time. I will move the delivery date into the future. Okay? But the priority of this sales order, let's say, is 1, which is the highest priority. And actually, what we actually want to do, if you think about it, is to take the allocation from this sales order here of priority 4 and actually reallocate it to this one with a higher priority. Okay? And the concept of moving the allocation is called rescheduling. Yeah? So, just to repeat again, the concept of taking something that has already been allocated to a particular sales order, removing that allocation, and reallocating it to another sales order based on priority or something else is called rescheduling. So now let's say a sales order comes in, but this one is slightly different. The sales order requests that we deliver material or a bit further into the future. So we actually only need the material, the demand for that material, sometime in the future. So the sales order, let's say for a quantity of 60. Yeah, 60 here. Okay. Now, as you remember, ATP quantity is 0. So that would mean that when you create the sales order, the system will look at the recommended lead time. It would then say my ATP quantity is 0. It would then recalculate everything, and it would move the recommended delivery date into the future, taking into account the lead time. But then let's say after the sales order has been created, we then say that we are going to receive some stock into the plant before the sales order wants to use the material. So let me put this in here. Okay, so let's say before we need the material for that sales order, we get some stock from a different plant via the stock transport order. So we're moving stock from one plant to another, and let's say for a quantity of 200. And what we actually want to now the system to do is to then take into account this 200, look at the sales order, and allocate that 200 into the sales order. And actually what we want is for the system to recalculate and move the date back, because now at this time we have stocked, so the recommended delivery date should move back to the original. And the problem we have is once you have created the sales order and then you then create the stock transport order, the system doesn't automatically retroactively recalculate the dates in the sales order. So what we will have a look at this functionality called rescheduling, which constantly updates all of the sales orders based on new information.